Albania is a lesson in resilience. From unpredictable rockfalls to demanding off-road trails, torrential thunderstorms to perilous summit climbs, this journey was a whirlwind of adrenaline. 3 weeks, 2,000 kilometers and the very best of autumn. This is our road trip through Albania. Our journey began in the Accursed Mountains, a realm of lofty heights that straddles the borders of Albania, Montenegro and Kosovo. Several hiking tracks connect all three countries, the most prominent of which is the 10-day Peaks of the Balkans trail. But there are also shorter options. One of these led me to Buni Jezerca. Depending on the time of year, up to 6 lakes can be found in this secluded valley. Climbing higher, I followed a precarious trail that led me towards the second tallest mountain of the country.
Now this climb was really challenging, both physically but mostly mentally, because the last kilometer or so was completely covered by snow and ice and would never have been possible without crampons for stability. But I'm really happy to have made it up here because the view is utterly spectacular. There's Albania to this side with beautiful autumn colors in the valley, and then Montenegro over there, mountains all around. What a place to be.
Standing at 2,694 meters, Jezerca towers above all other peaks in the Dinaric Alps. On a clear day, the surrounding landscape is utterly sublime. Fortunately, scaling mountains is not a necessity to enjoy staggering views. Simply driving the winding SH20 is enough to be awed. Another firework of sensational scenery awaited us on the road to Theth. Until a few years ago, the last stretch of this route was unpaved. Now, a perfectly smooth, albeit narrow road leads deep into the mountains. In summer, this formerly quaint settlement turns into a bustling beehive. However, in autumn, things calm down considerably. Another reason to visit later in the year is the colorful foliage. All around us, reds, yellows and oranges heralded the change of seasons. Apart from its majestic mountains, the area is best known for its displays of aquatic vitality. The most famous of these is the Blue Eye. However, several more places are equally worth a visit. During our time in Theth, we were blessed with ridiculously good weather. The combination of clear skies, pleasant temperatures and few visitors made for the ideal conditions to hike to the Valbona Pass. This well-trodden trail steadily climbs through the forest and is generally manageable. After soaking up the panorama for a while, we decided to crest a minor knoll. This brought us to the best viewpoint by far. Leaving Theth behind, we took the southern route towards the coast. Until recently, this option was a rough and challenging 4x4 trail. But in the summer of 2025, the entire road was leveled and widened. While four-wheel drive enthusiasts will mourn this loss, the landscape has lost none of its splendor. Regardless of its upgrade, the road does not come without hazards.
Once again, we are finding ourselves in a bit of a spot of bother because this boulder right here poses a rather large inconvenience to us. Apparently, because of the heavy rainfall in the last days, a lot of the mountainside came down and now the road is essentially this wide, which appears to us is smaller than we need it to fit through. So now we are debating if we should risk it to drive very slowly and carefully through here, or to turn around and take a 150-kilometer detour.
The danger was obvious. A serious driving mistake would almost certainly be fatal. With Anna outside as a spotter, I cautiously tried to squeeze past.
Wenn wir ein bisschen weiter hier in die Richtung fahren und dann steht man hier, ne? Und das hier, denke ich, dass der Abstand wozu ist. Ja, hier wird es ja schon wieder rumgeschlagen sein.
Okay, und jetzt zu mir. Nicht zu sehr. Nein, nicht zu sehr.
Following much debating and another failed attempt, we deemed it best to set up camp.
Well, now we are really in a pickle, because despite two failed attempts yesterday evening, sleeping a night over it and trying again this morning, we could not get past that big boulder. So we decided to turn around, take the long detour, but apparently during the night there has been another rockfall, despite the conditions being dry, and we already tried, but we absolutely cannot get through this. It is too narrow. So we are now boxed in on this remote road, far from civilization, which means the only option we now have is to call the police and ask for someone who can clear this road.
Well, as it turns out, the police in nearby Shkodër are exceptionally useless.
Road blocked, okay?
Even though we called the National Emergency Line, not a single person spoke English and they repeatedly hung up on us.
Road blocked. These just hang up.
Thankfully, the Albanian people are the polar opposite of their police force. When a group of young men arrived, they didn't waste a single second before offering their help. Both of the large boulders blocking the path weighed more than a ton, which meant that, in spite of our valiant efforts, moving them by hand was out of the question. Plan B was to attach our snatch strap to their vehicle to slightly rotate the rock. But even with the added weight of 5 people in and on the car, the boulder barely budged. Our last idea was to attempt a pull in the opposite direction.
Yeah, no, just come like that. Yeah. Just turn your wheel. Turn your wheel. Okay, yeah, go on. Sit. Go. Déjame. Perfect. Go, mas é logo máquina. Hato.
Deeply grateful, we said goodbye to our helpers before finally making it past the landslide. While the walking distance from Theth to Valbona is just 17 kilometers, driving requires a 265-kilometer long road trip. Navigating the winding roads is time well spent though.
Arguably, autumn might be the best time to hike in the Accursed Mountains because it's not as hot anymore as it is in summer, the weather is often still extremely nice, and best of all, there's barely any people. I met one other hiker today, one person, but other than that, it is just blissful solitude.
From the summit of Kollatë Keqe, I beheld the beauty of the Accursed Mountains in both Albania and Montenegro. However, the greatest spectacle awaited us in the evening, when the mighty peaks were illuminated by an intense alpenglow. The next day, we left the mountains of the north and headed southeast. Our goal was to drive all the way to the village of Radomira. Looking for a campsite, we turned onto an off-road trail, which became rather bumpy. All the rattling was worth it though, as our spot was absolutely phenomenal. After a long day of labor, Helios was nearing the end of his journey and the landscape was awash in the golden waves of eventide. As soon as his sister, Selene, rode forth in her moon chariot, our excitement knew no more bounds.
Good morning. It is just past 6:30 a.m, so early start today because I'm climbing towards the highest peak of Albania. The conditions are absolutely perfect. We got clear skies, sunshine all day, and it's not too cold, even though it's already November. The trail itself is not too tough either. It's about 6.5 kilometers from our camp, and 1,200 meters of elevation gain. Not too bad, but there might be quite a lot of snow on the higher slopes, so I've packed my crampons, ice axed, all the cold weather gear, and so I think this shall be a good climb.
Surprisingly, there was very little snow, so I didn't require any special equipment. The views, on the other hand, were everything I had hoped for.
This is the highest peak of Albania. And, fun fact, it is also the highest point of North Macedonia, because this mountain forms the border between both countries. We have North Macedonia to this side, and then Albania over here. And once again, I am completely alone, surrounded by magnificent mountains, blessed with beautiful sunshine. It is simply a dream to be up here.
At 2,764 meters, Mount Korab is the highest point of the eponymous mountain range. Unlike the rugged Albanian Alps, this massif appears less harsh. Only the tallest pinnacles form a jagged array of slate and limestone. Further below, the gently rolling meadows are favored among shepherds and their livestock. In the end, I spent more than an hour on the summit, soaking in the views from the roof of the country. Our subsequent journey led us along Albania's eastern border. One of the main sites in this part of the country is Lake Ohrid. According to analysis of sediment layers, this is one of the oldest lakes in the world. After a quick glance at Lake Prespa, the emissaries of autumn caught up with us. As a result, much of the landscape was hidden beneath a thick layer of clouds. Aside from creating a moody atmosphere, the heavy precipitation also had another effect. Usually, most rivers in southern Albania are brightly turquoise. However, due to the heavy rain, many of them turned muddy brown. One of these was the Lengarica. This stream has carved an impressive canyon, which at some points is barely 3 meters wide. In dry summers, its water levels drop so low that one can hike through the entire gorge. A further reason to come here is the thermal springs at the mouth of the canyon. Set in natural stone pools, these lukewarm baths are said to possess healing properties. During our visit, there was extensive construction work though, which did not create a relaxing ambience. Driving on, we got stuck in a traffic jam. Ahead, the entire road was blocked by at least 200 sheep and goats. When we had escaped this sheepish blockade, we continued towards Osum Canyon. Once again, we ventured off-road to reach our destination. This part of the country does not entice with towering peaks, but with fascinatingly eroded hillsides. The steep slopes are mostly composed of soft rock, which over time has been sculpted by the elements. The main reason for this phenomenon is occasional intense rainfall that causes surface runoff known as rill erosion. The result is an intriguing assortment of grey gullies in an otherwise verdant countryside. Despite its seclusion, people still live in the area. While they undoubtedly have difficult access, they also enjoy fantastic scenery. Of all the trails in Albania, this was by far our favorite. At roughly 25 kilometers, it is long enough to be immersed in nature, but short enough to complete in a couple of hours. A sturdy vehicle is a necessity, of course, as the track surface is far from smooth. In dry conditions, the trail only presents a few challenges. However, after rain, some parts become extremely slippery. Luckily, we were blessed with brilliant sunshine, which allowed us to focus less on the road and more on the surroundings. Some hours later, we arrived at our destination. The Osum Canyon is a 26-kilometer long river gorge that is more than 2 million years old. As so often, water played a fundamental role in its formation. Some parts of the canyon are very narrow, whereas it widens considerably at others. Not far away, we followed a gravel trail to the summit of Tomorr. This is one of the highest mountains in southern Albania, which, conveniently, is accessible by vehicle. The top is often shrouded in clouds, but we were fortunate enough to catch a glimpse of the landscape. Aside from the panoramic views, the peak is also a sacred site of the Bektashi Sufi order. This is due to Abbas Aliu, a Shia martyr who died in the Battle of Karbala in 680. Now, Karbala lies in present-day Iraq, and Abbas Aliu never set foot in Albania, but according to local beliefs, his soul traveled to the summit of Tomorr before ascending to heaven. North of the mountain lies Berat, the largest settlement in the region. The city of 1,000 windows is best known for its compact old town quarters. A simple explanation for the uniform appearance is a devastating earthquake in 1851. During the subsequent restoration, most of the houses were rebuilt in the same style. The white walls and shingle roofs are so distinctive that Berat was designated a museum city in 1961 and declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2008. Nowadays, the construction of new buildings is strictly prohibited, which ensures that each visit feels like a journey back in time.
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة.
Having had our fair share of the historic architecture, we sat down at a restaurant and enjoyed some local dishes.
حي على الصلاة.
Following our inland loop past canyons and picturesque towns, we now turned our attention to the far south.
We are just driving on a slightly bumpy four-wheel drive trail, which we thought we could use as a shortcut to get to another route. But as usual, our plans did not quite turn out as we would have liked, because we met a local man and his wife, and they gave us to understand that the road is not in a good condition. And if an Albanian tells you that, well, we decided to turn around. But what is even nicer, they gave us 4 freshly picked pomegranates. So once again, we are absolutely stunned by the hospitality of the local people.
As it quickly transpired, we had missed the recently built turnoff, so instead of slogging in deep mud, we now traveled on a freshly tarred road. Looking to our left, Tomorr wore a crown of clouds. Unlike this well-known peak, the waterfall of Progonat remains a hidden treasure. Here, a tumbling stream cascades down a series of rocky steps. In the process of its age-long work, the river has chiseled several clear basins. To the south, we also paid a visit to Gjirokastër, a city with a charming old town. Most importantly, however, we came here for off-road shenanigans. For that, we teamed up with Katrin and Tommy in their World Cruiser 5. Ironically, the first section of our planned route had just been paved. As a result, we made much faster progress than anticipated. Eventually, the asphalt gave way to a smooth gravel road. And while this still wasn't the off-roading we were looking for, At least the views were wonderful. Onto an even smaller trail, our going started to slow down. Before long, we reached an isolated border post between Greece and Albania. The ensuing passage through a village was a clear indication of the track ahead. At last, we had found the adventure we'd been searching for. The narrow path was strewn with large rocks, while at the same time leading steeply downhill. In addition to the bumpy trail, the weather further heightened the drama. To the one side, a wall of menacing clouds darkened the sky. To the other, rays of molten sunlight illuminated our path. Reaching the valley floor, we paused for a short break. Next, a small river crossed the trail. But of course, this shallow stream posed no problem for either vehicle. Opposite bank, the track did not get any easier. Long stretches with mud holes demanded our full attention. But the most difficult section was yet to come. Snaking our way through the forest, the ground was completely covered by leaf litter and mud. Combined with the incline, this made for a tricky climb with little traction. Then continuing in the dark, we decided to set up camp. To our immense luck, we found a spacious spot beside a derelict church.
Oh mein Gott, der Arme. Der musste unsere Kamera holen.
The next day, the trail included some uneven sections, but with careful driving, none were real obstacles. few kilometers after setting off, we came across another house of God. The holy Transfiguration Monastery church has long been abandoned, but some of its former glory lives on. To this day, the interior of the building is decorated with vibrant murals. Sadly, reckless vandalism during Albania's communist past and the natural effects of erosion have taken a serious toll. While we had been admiring the monastery, the weather had taken a turn for the worse. But if anything, all this rain made the final stretch even more thrilling. Things must come to an end, so after 2 days of shared adventures, we bid farewell to Katrin and Tomorr. The next part of our journey took us to Albania's second blue eye. This karst spring discharges almost 20,000 liters every single second. Divers have descended to 50 meters, but so far the exact depth of the basin remains a mystery. In the evening, the tempest returned with a vengeance. Every few seconds, lightning flashed across the sky. All throughout the night, Zeus, king of the gods, seemed wrathfully busy, but even the first light of morning brought little relief. The torrential onslaught of rain continued stubbornly, leaving us with no desire to move camp. Another 24 hours later, the sun finally reappeared as we boarded a cable ferry. On the opposite shore of the lagoon, we visited the country's most significant archaeological site. The ancient settlement of Butrint boasts a history spanning 3 millennia. This city was originally founded by a Greek tribe, but experienced its heyday under Roman rule. Its good fortunes did not last forever, though. In late antiquity, the city fell into decline, before being abandoned after an earthquake flooded most of the town. Walking through the ruins, it felt as though these calamitous floodwaters had never receded. More realistically, the heavy rains of the previous days had submerged half the settlement. By far the largest surviving structure is the Great Basilica. This building was erected in the early 6th century, presumably as a tomb for its private benefactor. In addition to houses, cathedrals and forums, excavations have also uncovered works of art. Particularly impressive are the marble statues with their incredible attention to detail. Whereas the region's past brought forth countless cultural gems, some of Albania's modern history is less celebrated.
Hello from inside of a bunker. Now, seeing a bunker in Europe is nothing entirely uncommon. After all, 2 world wars were fought predominantly on European soil. However, the case of Albania is a little bit different because this bunker wasn't built during either of these 2 conflicts, but much later, to be precise, sometime in the 70s or 80s. During that time, the communist leadership of Albania got increasingly paranoid about an imminent attack from a foreign enemy, be it Greece, Yugoslavia, or even from the capitalist West. And so in the process, they built more than 200,000 of these bunkers. Nowadays, of course, we know that this attack never came, and so these bunkers are now a stark reminder of what paranoid power can do to a country.
Having spent the previous weeks exploring everything except the seaside, we now set out to rectify that. Along the Adriatic Coast, Albania is blessed with numerous beautiful beaches. Regrettably, only few of them remain pristine. In recent decades, stretches of the coastline have become hotspots for over-tourism. And yet, construction seems never-ending. Of course, some areas are still charming. This is especially true for locations far removed from civilization. Just as the sun cast its final rosy glow, we set up camp by the sea. Following this short stint along the Mediterranean, we headed inland again. Our goal was to hike to a little-known cave. After more than an hour of scrambling, we reached the narrow entrance. Inside the 120-meter-long limestone cave, the sound of dripping water was ever present. As a result, the roof and floor were adorned with stalactites and stalagmites. And then, on our last day, Albania bade us farewell with brilliant sunshine. After 3 weeks, having driven more than 2,000 kilometers, it was time to say goodbye. Albania is a high-speed train hurtling towards the future. Gone are the days of fear when paranoid leaders isolated their people. Now, the rapid pace of modern development is reshaping the nation. But for the intrepid traveler willing to go off the beaten track, this country still holds countless hidden treasures.